We see gold has to stay above the $4,000 an ounce range. Once it solidifies above that, then we see it going much higher. Fed slips nearly $30 billion into cash-starved U.S. banking sector. Barely reported. Banks are going to go bust. There's going to be an office building bust. You're looking at your office occupancy rate only around 55%. There's going to be huge failures in banks. They're not reporting this. Oh, the ECB plans to test the digital euro for 2027. Yep, digital euro, as we said, from dirty cash to digital trash. With Christmas time coming up and you're seeing they're hiring less and less people, the worst markets today. The NASDAQ slumped over 2%. The S&P fell over 1%. And the Dow was down 251 points. And that Planetaire shares shed about 8%, right? But they were up more than 150% this year. And they're trading at 200 times earnings. So here you have the P ratios are way out of line. And now the media is talking about the AI bust. And we call it the dot-com bust 2.0. They're way overinvested in these companies. And again, that's your magazine cover going back to February 5th of this year. And we called it on January 28th. Oracle fell 4% lower, but their stock's up some 50% this year. I mean, it's ridiculous. The crash could well be happening now. And this guy, David Solomon from Goldman Sachs last night said, quote, there'll likely be a 10 to 20% drawdown in equity markets sometimes in the next 12 to 24 months. One or 2 years. We believe it's going to happen earlier. And again, your magazine cover, your magazine shows it in the sense that what's going on with the banks, how they're bailing them out, and they're hardly talking about it. Brent crude, it's still selling in the $64 a barrel range. Again, OPEC Plus is pushing out more oil. They need more dough, so you got much more supply than demand. And again, there's going to be a global slowdown. Dragflation is going to be dragged down economies and increasing inflation. Inflation's not going to stop. Gold was down nearly $70 an ounce today. High, lower than I would have thought it was gone. And the dollar's going up. And why, I have no idea. But, one of the reasons is less confidence in that they're going to lower interest rates. And remember, subscribe to the Trends Journal. We're giving you history before it happens. And hit the subscribe button on this because we're getting shadow banned and taken off. The numbers aren't where they used to be. And again, we're giving you what nobody else in the world is giving you for the grand total of $2.59 a week in the Trends Journal. So really, hit the link, subscribe, and spread the word. Bitcoin, it was down below $100,000 a coin. It was high as what, $124,000, but it's still way up there. And now it's like its lowest number, for a while. So we're still bullish on it because the Trump team is in it. And they're going to keep, nothing goes straight up or straight down. And again, I want to make it really, really important. Watch this election and what happens in New York City today. This is very, very important. And gold, going back to gold, as we see it, gold has to stay above the $4,000 an ounce range. Once it solidifies above that, then we see it going much higher. And again, the wars are ramping up in the Middle East and Ukraine. And here, you got just a couple of ceasefire agreement. Netanyahu orders powerful strikes on Gaza. Israel stealing more Palestinian land, begins dividing Gaza in half. Israel violates ceasefire, continues to bomb Lebanon with U.S. support. And they're also bombing Syria, taking more land from them. It's going to keep ramping up. And the Ukraine war is ramping up. They're hitting important oil sites in Russia. And we said this was going to happen. And by the way, because of the sanctions that the United States put on Russia with oil, remember Joe Biden, Genocide Joe, who stole about $250 billion of our money to keep the Ukraine war going? He said Putin's going to pay the price. No, the Germans are paying the price. The cost of energy in Germany has gone up nearly 33% since the war began in 2022, February. So it's very, very stupid crap. And it's all going to go, oh, we've been writing over years. When the economy falls, jobs go with it. Oh, today IBM announced they're cutting 3,000 jobs. It goes back to the economy. The equity markets have zero to do with Main Street. There's no relationship between Main Street and Wall Street. And we mentioned this before. Oxfam came out with we didn't actually mention it before, it just happened Monday. They came out with a new report that shows how the rich are getting much richer and how everybody else is getting much poorer. And this is in America particularly. This used to be the land of opportunity. It's gone. It's gone. And again, it goes back to that election today in New York City to see what's going to happen. So you're going to see more and more job cuts, and then they say AI is going to cut a lot more out of them. Fed slips nearly $30 billion into cash-starved U.S. banking sector. Yep. Barely reported. Barely reported. The banks are going to go bust. There's going to be an office building bust. You're looking at your office occupancy rate only around 55%. And your office vacancy rate is around 20%, was around 11% before the COVID war in 2019. There's going to be huge failures in banks. They're not reporting this. They're not reporting the buildings that are being sold for a fraction of what they were bought for. And when the dot-com bust happens, it's going to be the beginning of the end of the equity markets. And remember, when all else fails, they take you to war. And when the dot-com busts happen, get ready for war. What else do we have here? Markets fragility events reach a record number. New poll confirms consumers' dark mood. Again, 70% of America's gross domestic product, nearly, is based on consumer spending. So with all these job cuts, with wages going below real inflation, with Christmas time coming up and you're seeing they're hiring less and less people, the worst is coming soon economically. And article, new trade agreement leaves key issues unresolved. Oh, the ECB plans to test digital euro for 2027. Yep. Digital euro, as we said, from dirty cash to digital trash. That's the way the world is going. They want to know every penny you spent, what you spent it on, where you spent it. There you got it. Yep. We can spy on you. We'll know all about you. And most importantly, we get your taxes. And I'm tired of calling these taxes. Call it thievery.